Is lying to save your own skin morally acceptable? This might be one of the most controversial topics that we've talked about, so stay tuned. Welcome back to Lost in Games Unscripted, the series where we talk about whatever comes to mind at any given time. And today, that is the topic of lying to save your own skin, specifically in regards to Eugene from seasons 4, 5, and on in The Walking Dead. And it's a really interesting topic because it's one of those things where, from a morality and ethics and philosophy, there is no one right answer, although there are several really interesting ones. So let's get into it. So from an ethical standpoint, lying to save yourself or lying in general, really how you feel about it depends really strongly on where you come from. Now, there is one train of thought that lying under any circumstances at all is completely wrong, that you should never lie at all. That is usually under the deontological standard, usually duty-based stuff coming from a God handing down saying, don't lie. The Christian Bible has thou shalt not lie as one of the 10 commandments. Like, it is one of those things where lying in general is usually seen as a bad thing. However, there have been circumstances throughout history where lying to save yours or other people's lives has actually been considered morally correct and the right thing to do. Now, whether or not you see that as the morally correct thing really depends on which side of history you're on. Now, in the 1930s and 1940s, one of the most famous examples in history, when Nazi Germany was kind of taking over and they were going door to door and they wanted to round up all of the Jewish people. And they were going door to door, and there were people that were hiding their neighbors, and they would lie and say, no, I don't know where they're at. I don't have anybody here. And realistically, if you're looking at it from the duty-based ethics and morals, there's a system that would say that that's wrong, that you should not ever lie under those circumstances. It becomes a little more dubious if you're lying for and saving somebody that maybe is out to hurt somebody, right? Perhaps you have a family member that has committed a crime. Maybe they have robbed a bank, or maybe they killed somebody accidentally, and you're hiding them at your house, and the police show up and they say, hey, is so-and-so here? And you say, well, no, they're not here. I don't know where they're at. Lying under those circumstances, technically you're protecting somebody, but you're protecting somebody from the law. And where is that line at? Now, from Eugene's perspective, when the fall of society happened and the zombies started, the dead started rising, the zombies started eating everybody, Eugene was in a circumstance where he wasn't a very good survivor. He couldn't protect himself, and he knew that. He's shown as a very smart individual. He is obviously got a lot of book knowledge. I don't remember all of the details of his past, but he's pretty smart. And so he's trying to figure out, how can I save myself? What can I do? And one of the first things he comes up with is to say, well, I can cure the zombie plague. You just need to get me to Washington, D.C. And his entire reasoning for getting to Washington, D.C. is because it's further away, and he has ways to sabotage the group to try and keep them from getting there. If you pay close attention, and I've been rewatching seasons 4 or 5, I'm getting into season 6 now, and I paid real close attention when it came to when they first met Eugene, when Glenn and I believe it's Glenn and Tara first meet Eugene and Abraham and Rosita, right? And he's like, hey, Glenn says, I need to get back to my group. And Abraham's like, no, we have a much more important mission. We have to get Eugene here to Washington, D.C. But all along the way, Eugene is doing things to sabotage the group. He is causing problems. But it's all behind the scenes. At one point, he opens fire on his the truck they have sitting there, and he just starts firing wildly and pretending like he doesn't know what he's doing as he's shooting at some zombies, and he blasts a hole in the gas tank and blows out the tires. They can't do anything, right? So now he says, well, we got to follow Glenn. I guess we're going to walk back this way because that's the quickest way back, right?
That way's clear. Who knows what's north? We'll find another vehicle. We'll go with them until we do. Trust me, I'm smarter than you.
All to keep them from getting to Washington, D.C. Now, from a moral perspective, lying to save yourself, to keep yourself alive, especially when you look at it from a utilitarian standpoint, can be seen as a good thing. You want to survive. You want to keep yourself alive. It's self-preservation, right? But even from a utilitarian standpoint, when it comes at the cost of the group, when the group starts to suffer because of your lie, that's when it starts to become a problem. And Eugene, and the stuff that he's doing to sabotage the group as they go, actually winds up causing more harm than good and causing people problems as he's going along, and potentially getting people killed. Now, we know that he was with a group before he met Abraham. He mentions it, I think, a couple of times, where he was with some other people, and then those groups got wiped out. And I can't help but wonder how much of his lie and how many things that he had done to sabotage them backfired and caused people to get killed along the way.
People died trying to get you here.
I'm aware of that. Stephanie, Warren, Pam, Rex, Roger, Josiah, Dirk, and Josephine. And Bob.
And when it comes to that kind of thing, when it comes to lying for self-preservation, you can't do it at the expense of other people. And that's going to be true, especially from a utilitarian standpoint. Utilitarianism focuses on the overall good of the group and making sure that the well-being, making sure everybody's taken care of. And if you're lying and everybody is trying to help get you somewhere based on that lie, and you keep sabotaging the group and causing the group harm based on that lie, that's going to cause you problems. But it gets even worse because Eugene finally comes out and tells the truth, right? They're there. They have the group of zombies ahead of them, right? And they've got the fire truck, and they're trying to figure out what to do, how to get through this group. And Eugene's finally like, I lied. And all hell breaks loose. Abraham beats the hell out of him, knocks him out cold. And then Abraham's kind of like, he's lost his purpose. He's sitting there and he's like, what do I do now? He doesn't, and it starts to cause problems for the group. Now they're stuck in place. They don't know where to go. They don't have a purpose. And then they wind up getting back with the other group, and it kind of works out in the end. They do get to DC, and Eugene had a good point of getting to DC is the best idea, right? Because you would think if there's any place that's protected, if there's any place that's going to have some resources, it's got to be DC. That's the nation's capital, right? But the way that he goes about doing it gets people hurt and killed. So when it comes to even utilitarian principles, lying can be seen as a net negative, as a bad thing if it's causing harm. And that's where you can go back to our what I was saying earlier about lying to protect a relative who has caused harm, who has done bad things. If you're protecting somebody from, being arrested for committing a crime, that could be considered a net negative. That could be considered harming society as a whole, because that person, maybe they need to get some help. Maybe they are apt to commit another crime. And by locking them away, you're keeping another crime from being committed. But it gets tricky because when we go back to the 1930s and 40s example, those people were committing crimes technically. So it can't just be about committing crimes. It can't just be about what is right and wrong in the eyes of the law. You have to look at the overall good of the group. Are you in a situation where the people are actually committing a crime, where they're actually causing harm? Is your lie going to protect more people than it hurts? Ideally, you don't want to hurt anybody, but in that situation, you got to hurt the fewest possible, right? So you need to figure out whether or not that lie is going to be a good thing. Now, from a deontological standpoint, it gets really gray because, like I said, there are some aspects of deontology where some people would say that lying under any circumstances is wrong, no matter what. That I can't really get behind personally. I can see how people would say that because ideally, if you would think that we should all be fully transparent and honest in society, but let's be honest, we all tell small lies even when we don't mean to. Every day we go about our lives, we are telling small lies to people. Does this shirt look good? If you say yes, and the person's shirt doesn't look good, that's a small lie. It doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't cause any harm. It wouldn't be really morally dubious or a problem, but it's still a small lie. So we're all guilty of telling some small lies as we go. The question becomes, where do we stand morally, and are we consistent with that? If you say that lying under any circumstances is wrong, full stop, well, then you have to tell the complete and honest truth every single time anybody asks you anything at all.
Wait.
Let me ask you a question. Tell me who your favorite singer is.
What?
Look, I know you say it's Elvis, but we both know that's crap, so tell me who your favorite singer is.
It's like you said, it's Celine Dion. I mean, Celine Dion. It's Celine. Dean, every time I try and say Elvis, it comes out.
The sad, horrible truth. Yeah, you know why? Because we can't lie.
All right. Who ate my yogurt?
Right here.
I knew it was you. That was the third son of a bitch.
You know, put yourself in a position your boss walks in and he or she is wearing like the most ugly outfit you've ever seen. Like they should not have put that outfit on that morning. They should have done anything else. And they walk up to you and they say, hey, this is a new outfit. I got this the other day at the store. Do you think it looks good? Would you lie in that circumstance? Would you say, no, I think it looks awful. Why did you wear that? Now you maybe risk your job. Maybe your boss, who had a decent opinion of you, is like, oh, well, I'm not talking to them anymore. You know, ask yourself how would you handle that situation? And if you would lie, if you say that lying is wrong under any circumstances, but you would lie under that circumstance, you're not being consistent there. And what you have to do is be consistent. And you have to open it up and you say, okay, well, if that's okay, then where's the line? And that's where we get to the morality. And that's where we get to understanding, like Eugene's lie, that was a wrong lie. He should not have lied. That morally, ethically, you can't justify Eugene lying to protect himself because he's getting other people hurt and killed, because he's causing problems. Think about it this way. If Eugene hadn't, let's say he had lied, but at the church, he had said, actually, there is no saving us in Washington, D.C. If they had stuck around at the church, who knows how things might have turned out? You know, they decided, because part of the reason that Bob got eaten, taken, everything, and all the stuff they had to deal with after that was because they were having a party the night before they were leaving, right? They had half the group was leaving and they were splitting up and they were weakening the group. And that could have backfired on them. Luckily, Rick had his wits about him, but it could have backfired and they could have wound up being ambushed and bad things could have happened because they didn't have enough people there. Very similar, go back to when Rick went to Atlanta to try to save Merle. Yeah, he went back to Atlanta to try to save Merle, right? And the group was weakened. They didn't have as many people there. They didn't have as many guns. You know, that could have caused them problems. It might not have been the group from Terminus. It might have been another group that rolled up on the church, right? There could have been somebody else that rolled up and said, hey, we're going to take your shit, and we got more guns than you. We got more people than you. And if they had only had Abraham and Glenn and Rosita and Eugene, and if they'd had all of them there, maybe they could have defended it. So that was a huge risk. You don't want to split up. People are a resource. So if he hadn't lied, now if he hadn't lied in the very beginning, who knows what would have happened? Because on the one hand, he did save Abraham's life. Abraham was ready to give up, right? When Abraham and Eugene first meet, Abraham, he had lost his wife and his kids, and he didn't know what to do with himself. And he was ready to give up. And here comes Eugene giving him purpose. And that's where the good part comes in. Eugene says, hey, I can save the world. I'm on a special mission. But that lie grew too big. It got out of control. It got people killed. And that's when you have to ask yourself, where's that line? And that's why I think that Eugene's lie initially, not the worst thing in the world, because it did save Abraham and potentially Rosita and others. But the longer that lie goes on, the bigger that lie gets, the more trouble it causes. When you start having to sabotage things, sabotage the mission to protect your lie, it becomes impossible to keep up with, and you start getting people hurt and killed, and that's when you cross that line. But I want to know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. Do you think that Eugene was right for lying to protect himself? You know, it was all about saving himself. That's all he really cared about at first. His character grows in later seasons. You know, he lies to the saviors, which winds up saving lives, you know. So Eugene does grow, and he does start to see the group as a family, and he kind of becomes one of them. But early on, do you think that his lie to protect himself and to save himself, do you think that it was right to do? And do you think that there was where do you think the line was? If you think it was okay at first, do you think that he crossed the line? When did he cross that line? You know, all the way to the point where he finally told the truth. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happens there. Do you think he crossed the line at some point that he shouldn't have crossed? Let me know down in the comments below. With that being said, I've got some other videos planned in this series. We're going to be talking about some of the bigger moral dilemmas from the seasons 3, 4. We've already done 1 and 2, so we've got other seasons to talk about. I've still got plans to talk about Negan. I've got a whole bunch of season 5 stuff, a bunch of notes that I've taken that I want to talk about. So keep an eye out for all of that. Make sure you like and subscribe and all that good stuff. I've also got channel memberships and a Patreon that help me keep the channel going. So if you enjoy the videos and you want to help keep the channel going, sign up for one of those things. You'll get your name on the screen, early access to videos, all that kind of stuff. If you sign up for the Patreon, you get a little bit of extra stuff because I've got another channel where I'm writing horror stories. I've been posting those on there as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, hey, you get early access to those on the Patreon as well. So that's all I've got for this one. I want to thank you all for watching. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.